Everyone, it's me. I am Lorraine Goldblum, and I have a treat today. I have someone that I'd really like to introduce you to. Someone I invited here to help me talk about the Finding Presence series. So many of you know Lou Valena as the person who handles my registration, but they do so much more than that. Lou Valena, what is your title, Lou? Operations Manager?
I think that's my title at this
Yeah,
point.
it's an impressive title for sure. But you all should know Lou does so much for me in terms of helping me to rethink and restructure my business. My beautiful website is a credit to Lou. And there are so many things, but in particular, Lou, I want to just thank you for your help and your support in the ongoing development of the Finding Presence series.
Oh, it's my exquisite pleasure. I mean, this series is so exciting and expansive, and I'm so excited to be here to talk to you about it today.
Yeah, it's really important to me. I think it's one of the most important things I've done. And I've done, many wonderful things. I love the classes, and I have a number of series going on, the Call to Freedom and the, wonderful work that I'm doing with Laura and the astrology. But, this has been in development for many years.
Yeah,
And
it seems like a very close to your heart project.
it is. And I think as the years go by and I continue working on it, I'm realizing, how important it is to me and why it's so important, because it really just started as a way of talking about vortex healing. It really just started as in offering healing events that people would resonate more when I was just talking about an issue as opposed to just describing what vortex healing is. And I saw that talking about issues in that way brought people together, because issues are universal. Because even though we may have a different experience of anxiety or depression or heartbreak, we all know what that is. And giving language to that, brought people together, and it took some of the sting out of it. It made them, defining them, made them more workable. So, we created something called the issue series. But I found that the ongoing work with that helped me change my relationship to issues, that I was in fact using this series as a way to learn how to meet an issue. And what was really important was changing our relationship to issues instead of seeing them as our failures or the enemy or the obstacles that we need to overcome. We learned to see them as an opportunity for growth and a gateway to awakening. This is what we have to meet, and this is what we have to do. So, I started sort of creating a process for how to do that.
Yeah, I think this process is something that seems like it's really grown over the years and transformed into something that's kind of a standalone process. And I guess it would be great to hear you talk about what was your goal when we first started working together on this. You had already been working on it for quite a while. You had you were a guest on a cable access show. You had all these different kind of avenues that you were exploring. What were you hoping to kind of do when we started to transform it?
I really wanted to just sort of develop it further. I knew that I needed a new name. That was a big part of it, because we were calling it the issue series. And although appropriate in many ways, because, it's a process about meeting and working with issues, this doesn't sound like a lot of fun. It's like, let me sign up for that. I knew that I needed a new name, because the point isn't the issues. The point is the presence. It's like, why do we do this work? What are we trying to do by meeting and working with our issues? What is the point to all of it? So I needed language to say, the deeper purpose of the work. And it took us a while, didn't
Oh
it?
yeah, no, we were
You had some great ideas.
there were lots of great ideas running around, and it took us,
Laura had some great ideas. We
oh,
were sort
we were
of,
just
and
throwing noodles against
um,
the wall for quite some time.
yeah, and I think we just had to sort of do that. And then one day it was just sort of there. The
Mhm.
name Finding Presence was there as if it'd been sitting there all along. And I guess that's how things are, aren't they? You do your work and you get focused on the issue and the problem and solving the problem and and you don't actually look up to see the presence that's already there. And the name just sort of revealed itself in that way. And it's like, oh, this is it. And then going forward, um, I think that beautifully describes what it's all about, not attaining presence, not, achieving it, but seeing that it's already there. And then I realized also it's important to sort of let people know that I'm not trying to do structured therapy with them. This is a lineage about healing, and this is a lineage about awakening and awakening to the presence that already is there. So just sort of shifting the focus and having that perspective changes our perspective on the issues themselves. And then it's easier to change our relationship to them. And it's easier to use them and see them as an opportunity as instead of a burden. So then, things, really took off. And the podcasts began, the Jeff Chrisman podcast began, and we started revisiting these issues. Some of the ones that I had done on the cable show, I'm revisiting with Jeff on those podcasts. And, I know you're working very hard to update my website.
One issue at a time.
One issue at a time. And to sort of expand on that, because it is an ongoing process. But I have to thank you, because what I discovered in working with you is that it was important to actually define the process. We started talking about framework, and you started using this issue with the framework. What is the framework that you're using? And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, let's break this down. And I imagine that to be an internal discussion. You, me, Laura, and the team would sort of, I ask these questions in the Finding Presence events to help people get awareness in. And I imagine that framework would just be a clarification for myself and how that, and then you very gently suggested, and as did Laura, that's what people really want to know. I said, oh, is it? Yeah, that's really what you want to share. And I said, oh, I've been thinking about this all wrong, that, the real gift is the process on how to meet an issue, how to define it, how to analyze it, how to break it down, how to meet it, allowing for that space and that perspective so that it doesn't overtake you, to find the present underneath. So that's where we really need to go, isn't it?
Yeah, and the framework I think is really exciting, because I think frameworks in general, I think that at first blush, it seems like they're very constricting, and like there's like this formula and it's a structure, and it seems like it wouldn't allow for creativity. But actually, I think the reverse is true. I think that once you have a structure in place, you can really find your way through that and kind of tailor things to meet your needs, and kind of use it as a jumping off point that can feel very empowering, especially for people who are new to this work.
Yeah. No, I think that's well said. And clearly you're an artist. You can see the creativity bursting forth from your space. And I know, and I thank you for encouraging me to speak as an artist. You've encouraged me not to hide my theater background and all of that, because I have gotten the feedback on occasion that I should downplay that, because non-artists often think, oh, the artist is flaky, or there's no structure, or worst case scenario, fake, like you're just acting
Right.
your presentation, but the artist knows that art has structure. Art requires structure.
It does. If you're
and-
going to build something, you have to know what you're building. You have to have a plan, at least a somewhat of a plan.
Yeah.
I know that's the case with making a sculpture, but I can only imagine that it's the same way with creating a character.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm method born and bred. I come through the Strasberg training, which is very method, going back to Stanislavski, and an actor prepares and created a role. There is structure within that. Where do you start? How do you do that? How do you create that in an organic sense? And how do you, take it to its full expression? And in theater, that means doing it 8 times a week, not just doing it once, but actually creating it and recreating it and having it fresh. It is an important part of the artistic approach, requires structure and demands surrender. And that is the art of healing. That is what we do as healers. We are artists. We bring structure to it. We bring an approach. We have to learn how to meet an issue, bring the tools. But at the end of the day, the healing itself comes from a much deeper place. That structure, intention and surrender, intention and surrender. And so in crafting a framework for how to meet an issue, that training actually really comes into play. How do you meet something? How do you not get overwhelmed by the issue? How do you find enough space in there to have that distance, to get the perspective so that you can define it, so that you can analyze it, so that transformation can happen, and you can, be in that space and then embrace the process going forward? And that's kind of what we're breaking down. So with this upcoming event in March, what I want to do is really introduce the framework itself. Instead of working on a collective issue, invite people to bring the issue, they want to work on, to the table, and then sort of introduce, we can all sort of break it down together and introduce, how this framework works. And I feel, in full disclosure, the framework is evolving and changing. Part of what's happening through these podcasts and through these events is that, we're exploring what it is and redefining language. And I just sort of tweaked some language on it recently. And I'm sure that's going to just keep happening. Just like Vortex Healing is it's a living lineage. It evolves, it deepens, it changes all the time. Well, so do we. And how we meet and we do our work. So that's what we want to do.
So exciting.
It is exciting.
So excited to see how this all evolves and progresses, and to see what happens next.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so I just want people to know who you are, and I want to thank you for sharing this work with me and going there with me. It's hard to talk about process sometimes. And you've really encouraged me to just put it on the table and let's just go there and let's break it down. And it's just great to have that kind of support. So thank you. So, the event is coming that first week of March, which is, of course, Awesome Week.
It is awesome.
Tell them why the first week of March is awesome.
Well, okay. I have long had a feeling that March is the worst month of the year, which in New England,
there's justification for that.
And the first week of March is the worst week within the worst month. And so always felt like if we just did a little rebrand of that week and made it a themed week and made it awesome, that it would be a better week for everyone. If we all just made an effort to have an awesome week, that could change.
Yeah. And it's surely going to be an awesome week with this event and the hope of spring. Spring brings transformation. We're right there. We're so close that we can taste it. So hopefully this will open that door and welcome in that transformation in a new way. So anyway, so thank you, Lou, for being part of this. And thank you all for listening. And I'm looking forward to seeing you all there. Take care, everyone.